This is my VFR750F naked cafe racer style build. So I've just taken the fairings off at the moment, and I'm going through looking at the condition of the bike and seeing if there's any service items that I need to replace, and coming up with a bit of a shopping list from there. I guess now I've got the fairings off, you can really see the condition of it. The bike, it was running well before, rides great, but there's definitely a couple of things that need a bit of a refresh, but nothing major. I think the engine, as far as that's concerned, is pretty well serviced and up to date. A couple of the obvious ones I knew going into this were the forks. The forks could use a bit of a rebuild, and there's a bit of obvious rust here on the stanchions, but that's not too much of a problem. I've just pulled the front wheel off and had a look, and apart from the fork seals and a bit of pitting up towards the top here of the fork, the service area, the travel area that the fork lives in, is actually reasonably okay. So I'm going to just put some new seals in it and some fresh oil, and get some fork gaiters to kind of address the aesthetics of the pitting. And up the top here, I'm not sure what I'll do, but maybe get some sort of a cover. I took the front wheel off and gave it a bit of a clean, had a look at the condition of the pads and the rotor and the brakes. The brake calipers, they didn't really clean up very well, but they're in reasonable nick. They've got some reasonable pads in them. The rotors are pretty true and they look pretty clean, but the wheel bearings need to be replaced and the seals are shot. Something else I noticed while it was up on the stand was the head stem bearings. They've got a bit of a notch in them, definitely right on center. There's a bit of a low point. I do know the one owner of this bike did have a bit of a fall in it. It's possible that it just damaged one of the bearing balls or the race or something, and so I'll just replace that. Up the front here, all of this is obviously going to have to go, and I think I'll just end up with this big single headlight. This oil cooler, I'm not really sure what to do with that, but it's actually not a bad feature. If I can maintain it maybe a little bit closer, or maybe down here somewhere, or maybe just underneath the light. But you've got these hoses which sort of come up either side of the radiator with a bit of symmetry about them and come down into the bottom of the engine. That's not too bad. Radiator overflow bottle, it looks slimline enough for now, but it's a bit ugly. Something that I'll definitely have to replace eventually. All these external socket brackets and these bosses here probably don't look the best, but if I can just reroute that inside the frame there somewhere, depending on what the wiring is for. I think it's for like neutral switches and speed sensor, all that sort of stuff. The engine casings, this side's not too bad. I think it could clean up a bit better than this, but definitely got some flaking paint up there. Might be something I'll park for the minute, but pulling them off, getting a new gasket, repainting that or polishing it up, whichever way I go, is a pretty simple job to do once it's all back together, once it's running. Rear sets and rear brake, obviously this could use a bit of a paint and a bit of a refresh. The master cylinder seems to work fine, no apparent corrosion. The brake switch is a bit buggered though, and these ugly rubber lines feel a bit hard. Probably end up replacing those, I reckon. A nice braided set. Obviously the master cylinder's got its reservoir up here. Not the nicest spot for it, to be honest, but I'll have to do something with that. I think maybe something from a Honda dirt bike, if I can find something that bolts on, which has got an internal reservoir, that might be the way to go. Pretty keen to get this rear end off, get some of this shielding out of the way, and hopefully get into the back here and see how the bearings are in the swing arm and see what that rear shock is like. Subframe, a bit ugly. It's probably going to need a custom subframe, or at very least heavily modify this existing one. Going back around to the top of the bike, definitely looking to do new grips. I've kind of cleaned up these already just to make sure that they're working nicely, and a lot of just old grease. It's clearly never been apart. But the switch gear, if I can refresh that, get it looking a bit better. I like that they're fairly symmetrical. These are the same size, switches are the same. I've got good feel about them. I kind of like factory switches, I think they just work. But these grips have had it. Found these old bar end mirrors in the box. They seem to bolt on pretty well, and you get good visibility on that angle with the clip-ons the way they are, so I think that'll do for now. These reservoirs and master cylinders, all the braking system seems to be pretty good nick, but obviously we'd want to get those windows cleaned up and give these a bit of a paint up at some point. Definitely going to go with some stainless bolts, and this could use some attention. The front end here, I think it would look best if I could get maybe 2 nice clocks just either side of the center here, and I think that front end will be looking a lot better. We talked about the brakes, the wheels. The wheels are black. They cleaned up okay. There's a bit of a scrape here, which is unfortunate. Maybe I can just touch that up because the rest of the wheel actually looks alright. That'll help keep the costs down. The ignition coils, the 2 at the rear are sort of hidden away, but these 2 at the front are like right there. I'm sure there's going to be space somewhere up underneath on the inside there to tuck them away, or there's possibly, I'm investigating a coil on plug option, which would maybe bring the bike into a more modern era and tidy up a bit of the externals on the frame, and maybe even drop some weight. That'd be good. Around this side, engine cover could use a bit of attention. I kind of like to draw the line at getting in there and cleaning up the engine, pulling the engine out. That seems like a bit of a mission. I'd probably like to save a bit of money there and maybe just see if I can get some aluminium cleaner and tidy it up. This I found, idle sets the throttle stop, increases the idle. That was a bit of a nice little find underneath all the fairings. Got a bit of a leak here. I'm not sure if it's a leak or if it's just I really degreased the chain and put a heap of gear oil on it just to try and assess its condition and see how it's, see if it's going all right. There's a couple of, like, the links feel pretty good, and I think the gear oil and a bit of a clean really helped it a bit, but we've got a bit, possibly a leak or possibly just the gear oil dripping out. Covers look reasonably good on this side. Steel kickstand could use a bit of a paint, a bit of a cleanup. Same with all these controls. The center stand, a lot of people love center stand. I'm not too fussed with it, to be honest, and I think for the little bit of weight I might be able to drop and the way I might be able to clean up the bottom of the bike there, it's definitely worth getting rid of that. Up here we've got quite a lot of room taken up with this fuel filter and fuel pump returning back into the carburetors. Not sure if I mean, this pump's working fine, the bike starts pretty well, so if I could just relocate it I'd be pretty happy. But yeah, it's a bit of a bulky pump. I don't know if there's another sort of way to get around it. Yeah, there's some electrical stuff to tidy up. These rear sets are enormous. These pillion pegs, sorry. Definitely not looking to retain those. Back of the bike is especially ugly. A big plastic spray guard for underneath the wheel. I think ultimately, depending on how we go with the rear subframe, if I could work out a way to get like a nice one-piece chain guard that also includes a rear hugger, that'd be ideal. Yeah, chain guard, rear hugger coming down here, coming back over here somewhere. I think that'd be sweet. Exhaust, this is a stock exhaust. Sounds pretty, I mean, it sounds alright. You can tell it's a V4. It's alright when you're riding it, but it's definitely not got a noise that anyone's going to notice. So it's pretty clear. Put a bit of money aside in the budget to see if I can get an exhaust. I think the Black Widow's still making a stainless full system. that'd definitely be the way to go. A bit of an expensive option, but I guess the whole idea of starting with a VFR is just the interesting V4 engine. It's not crazy amount of power, like it's quick, but it's not gonna lift the front wheel up in first and second, not like the Triumph over here. And just because of the price of it and the vintage, it's something that I can really get in and tear apart and not feel too bad about losing some originality. Hopefully make it into something interesting, something that I can use every day. So for now, just continue to strip it down and see what condition everything's in, and keep adding to my list of things to purchase. Once that list is finalized, I'll click order, and I think so far the bike was $3,000. I need at least $600 worth of spares, just to, you know, seals and gaskets and bits and bobs. Exhaust, that'll be, you know, landed probably about $750. Going for a different seat, I've been looking around. I think Yamaha R1 2002 model seat might be a good way to go, and I'll see if I can make or 3D print a cowling for it. Or paint and finishing, I don't know how much I'll spend there. I'll try and do most of it myself, polishing up all the alloy bits where I think it's in good enough nick, and painting with a rattle can if I can get some good quality paints.